People were resorting to literally anything and everything. If a dating app could help, people were literally going on dating apps and asking for referrals. My QA and my DILR section weren't my best. It was my VARC that single-handedly uplifted my score to a 95.4 percentile because I had a narrative. In fact, I had a template ready that this is how I'm going to start. And it was, my name is Ananyaa Mishra. I am 21 years old.
You're done with your SIP or you're currently interning somewhere?
No, I finished my SIP at Reliance Industries Limited.
Wow.
So it was a 2-month SIP and I'm done with it.
Wow. Also, Reliance. I mean, there is one brand that, it's pretty hard to get into, and given the way the market is shaping up currently.
Yeah, of course, the market conditions were something that were a nightmare all in all. That I think impacted everyone's overall well-being in across the B school age
Not
group.
just well-being, the capacity of generating wealth as
Yeah,
well. Most of us had this aspiration that we'll be wealthy after MBAs. Can't even imagine.
that's a different story, and there was a lot of tension. I think there was a lot of tension in not just one B school but across B schools because people were resorting to literally anything and everything. If a dating app could help, people were literally going on dating apps and asking for referrals.
Oh, is that something that you really, got to see firsthand? That people were actually doing that?
it it People were trying that out, experimenting.
This is the crazy, people use LinkedIn as a dating app. Now they are using Tinder as a LinkedIn app.
Anything is a dating app if you try hard. Similarly, any place is a place to find jobs if you try hard.
Whoa, whoa. Both of them are this thing replaceable. And talking of you, when you were, talking about the market, that the market isn't
Yeah.
doing well. Does it feel a little weird that, oh, I was a literature student and now I'm getting to understand and analyze the market and structures like capitalism at large?
I think it's something you just learn on the job. Um, that it's something that experiences teach you. I don't think this is something I learned in the classroom, but this is something I learned by experience. Because although I'm a literature student, I have written I've written two dissertation papers, and one of my dissertation papers got published in the first volume of the flagship journal of NMIMS. So that ways I've done a lot of work in as far as research is concerned. And before I joined IIM Trichy, I was doing retail behavior and UX as an internship for Colgate Palmolive. So I had a little bit of experience as far as business is concerned, as far as marketing is concerned. So that was there. So I felt like maybe a retail job would be easy to catch, or maybe something in research and insights would be easy to catch. But then I was not getting shortlists at all. And somewhere I felt like, because I'm a COVID grad as well, almost my entire undergraduation went into COVID from 2009 from 2020 to 2022 beginning. I was literally homebound.
Yep.
I was studying from home. We had these take home assignments, and we had take home exams, and then there were open book exams. So naturally, people got very complacent. There are some of my colleagues who have some of my batchmates who made a lot of professional jumps. They've within their undergraduation, they made a lot of professional jumps. But then I somewhere felt stuck. So I thought, you know what, let's just finish our education for once, and let's not maybe get some work X. But then I did not realize that not having work X would have actually impacted my position in the job market. So that's one thing. And a literature student, I think that's made me someone very analytical. So I don't think I had a problem in my internship because I was very observational. I had an attention to detail. I've always had a lot of attention to detail. So I did not have trouble that way. And But then again, there are subjects that really are overwhelming. For example, the mathematical subjects, the numericals, they can really take a toll on you. But when you're, when you like reading, when you like, you know, making notes, taking notes, I think that's the kind of theoretical subjects really are fun.
So, Ananya, you were talking about this fact that you were feeling stuck during your undergraduate days. You know, most of the people have this feeling of being very
Yeah,
stuck in whatever they're doing. So, how
yeah.
did you get that clarity of transitioning from literature to a very this thing market oriented MBA course?
So I was studying liberal arts. The point of studying liberal arts is that it exposes you to a variety of subjects. So there's media, and then there's literature, there's history, political science, sociology, psychology, maybe even marketing.
Oh, which college were you pursuing your this thing liberal
I
studies?
was pursuing my undergraduate studies at an IIM School of Liberal Arts.
Oh,
So it's called Jyoti Dalal School of Liberal Arts. So I was pursuing my BA honors in liberal arts from there.
that's an
So
amalgamation of a dozen courses out there: sociology,
yeah,
marketing. Gee,
and there was stuff like film appreciation and visual language, etc. So we were exposed to everything and anything. There was some stats, for example. There was a little bit of ecology. So we were, run through the different subjects, and then we could decide upon what we wanted to pursue. But I've been an avid reader since I was 5 years old, so I was very sure that I want to do literature. Come what may, I wanted to be major in literature. So I published two dissertation projects in literature. One was on the Maithili language movement in Bihar and Nepal, and the second one was about how brands tell stories through the books that they publish. For example, Nike has Shoe Dog, and Walmart has Sam Walton Made in America. Similarly, MDH, um, the iconic MDH, Dadu had written his own autobiography. So I analyzed the language in this, and I described in my dissertation how this language reflected the brand sentiment. So what
so when I
brand
discuss of
storytelling
the
is
more
about.
recent biographies, that of Steve Jobs and Elon Musk, so they have a lot of ambitious way of representing whatever they've
Yeah,
gone through in their life. Does that reflect on the brand's identity as well, according to your study?
it does. For example, now let's take Shoe Dog for example, Phil Knight.
Till now.
So Phil Knight, the brand is Nike,
Hmm.
and Nike, it symbolizes passion, it symbolizes being driven, and the kind of trajectory that Phil Knight discusses in his book, and the kind of inspiration that he talks about. There's a certain language that um, showcases that motivation, that maybe describes what it feels like to be driven by a cause. So that language is something that I study.
Entities. Can you be a little more intricate? Because when you're mentioning the fact that a Phil Knight is expressing a lot of passion, how do you
Yeah.
distinguish a passionate writer and a writer who's writing just for the sake of it?
A passionate writer is someone who believes in show not tell. So, for example, you can say that I was nervous, but then you can also say that my arms were sweating, my legs trembled, and as my spine shivered and maybe my heart skipped a beat and a half. So you use a lot of language there. You make the entire process be described. I think there was a LinkedIn article about my debut performance in dance, and I talked about how my heart was in my mouth, and I was describing that it was a blunder. My debut was a blunder. My dance debut was a blunder because my jewelry fell off on stage. I lost my jewelry. My costume started to go out of place, and then there were things that, and then I ended it with everything that was supposed to go wrong went wrong. I just didn't say that it was a blunder. There was a fiasco. So that is what distinguishes a passionate storyteller and just a storyteller. A passionate storyteller, is someone who is meant to invoke some emotion in you through the kind of vast and expansive description that they give. For example, we know tamasha and how intricate tamasha gets. Ved Sahani talks about his life, and he's talking about Mar Tamasha Beach Bazaar, and he's describing everything. So that's what show not tell. I think that's very important. You have to show not tell. So I
Now the
think,
discussion is inclining a lot towards the liberal arts that you studied.
yeah.
And about the
So
fact that the this thing writing a distinction, the distinction between good writers and people who are passionate. So the
yeah,
art of vivid description, that is what comes handy. That's what you're telling.
yeah, that they have to, that the story has to come to life. That whatever you're putting out has to come to life. When you're narrating something, it has to be so multi-dimensional, so comprehensive, that there's no that that it stimulates their imagination, that it stimulates your reader's imagination. That's how a good storyteller is born.
So does this understanding of storytelling help you with your presentation as well? When you're going
It
about
does.
it does, right?
It
So
does.
how
It
do you
does.
approach your presentations, your corporate presentations? You go about telling stories or you limit yourself to frameworks?
I do go on telling stories. For example, when I was completing my internship at Reliance Industries Limited, um, there was a point where I was like, where I had to present my entire project. So I went through the entire narration, and then the narration was somewhat like a pendulum, that I was going to something, and then it took me back to something that I was from the past that was pretty linked to this.
Oscillating between the past and the present.
Yeah, so I had to oscillate between the past and the present. So, for example, I was describing the flow of the 2 months of the internship, and I made a reference to my manager, to what I had discussed with my manager when I was talking about the frameworks I have applied. And similarly, I even made use of some frameworks from psychology that I studied in my undergraduate studies. So I have a lot of information that I need to put together, and it usually depends on that the information that I put together, and I just weave it into a story. That's how I weave it into a story, by just categorizing information into boxes where it belongs. Maybe not everything is relevant but when you put it in the right place, it is relevant.
So just like how a cinema is written in three parts, the beginning, the middle, the end, that's
Yeah,
exactly how you narrate your presentation as well.
yeah. The beginning, the middle, and the end, with some references to each preceding part.
Literature students literally have a very big upper hand when it comes to delivering presentations. I've seen this across all the B schools. Most of the lit grads, I know they have a lot of difficulty with number crunching, etc. But when it comes to
Yeah,
presentations, they literally kill it. So, yeah, you're saying something.
I'm not sure about when it comes to presentations, because I said I'm not a very good public speaker, I'm not a very good orator. But
Yeah.
when it comes to writing things, yes. When it comes to writing reports and research projects and writing answers, then yes.
And you were also mentioning about the fact that you got exposure to a varied field of subjects during your undergrad. And then you
Yeah,
went on to sort of pursue your internship in something called UI UX designing, something of that kind, right?
yes. So that was
So
something I learned on the job.
you learned on the job. So you basically didn't have any what do you call knowledge beforehand about it.
Nothing. I had to learn everything from scratch on the job. So it was, my manager just said, "What the hell is this?" The moment I just showed him the first draft, and I was like, "No, this is something I have to learn on my own. This is something I need to think about, I need to brainstorm about, and I need to kind of, the thing we talk about, marketing myopia. I need to get rid of that marketing myopia and understand the retail behavior on a very personal basis." So that's how it happened. I started getting into the specifics. I started to understand their pain points, and I started to kind of, give them suggestions about what they would like to see in their app. The retailers, what retail distributors, what would they like to see in the app that they're using, and if there's something that's kind of, limiting their usage, if there's something that's affecting how their user experience, I tried to make questions on that, and I surveyed about 5 to 6 distributors, and based on that I created an entire UI plan.
Wow. Wow, but this transition from a person who's pursuing liberal arts to something of that kind, were you having access to all sort of opportunities at your college, or was there something else that kickstarted your career with regard to that retail space?
I I actually did not have a lot of exposure to retail in my undergrad, but I had to again learn it on the job. So I decided this is because I'm getting into MBA. Let me just do it. Let me just see what it feels like to do a summer internship before getting into the summer internship process. And I think that really warmed me up for the internship time. I feel like this time my internship went smoother than it had been before I joined MBA.
So, to all the freshers who are watching this podcast, always take this onto yourself that you need to have an internship in hand before you go about pursuing your real internship. That'll come really handy.
Yes, or just make yourself busy so that because कहते हैं ना खाली दिमाग शैतान का घर है. So
Yeah.
make yourself busy. And for all you know, you will discover something that really helps you inside out at the end of it. That
Wow.
really helps your understanding and that makes you realize how things function in the market and how everything is connected. So I realized that behavior is very connected to the kind of digital strategies that we create. So learn that and learn that and use a very hands-on approach to learning that.
Turns out all the graduates from liberal arts are coming for our jobs. Given the kind of insights you're having currently, that behavior is a function of whatever your digital footprint is. Wow. A lot of knowledge in a couple of years. Wow. And yeah, Ananyaa, again, trying to sort of focus on the part where you transition from your course into a very, professional one. So,
Yeah.
can you run me through whatever went in your mind and that feeling of being stuck? That feeling of being stuck and how you overcame that?
Okay. Okay. So I think I at that point I was just not sure about what I wanted to do, and this felt like the quickest option. Um, Doing an MBA felt like the quickest option.
Quickest option to get rich.
No, quickest option to finish your education,
Acha,
and quickest option to be an eligible candidate for the population dividend.
that's a very economic way of putting it across, man. No, MG. Whoa, this is something that I've not even heard from, the best of IIM grads, man. Wow. That be eligible for the population dividend. And then, so any advice that you got, that allowed you to sort of fixate on this course or anything else? And why not a master's in literature as well?
I thought that a master's in literature would lead you straight to academia, and then you had to do a PhD so that you would have been so that that increases your credibility. And I somewhere felt that I did not want to take this any longer. I just wanted to get done with my education
Education
for once and for
aspect.
all. Just take 5 years and get done with it.
Yeah, yeah. But your love for literature is not subdued, right?
Of course not, of course not. In fact, I think it's just increased by leaps and bounds because I've realized how much it's given me in terms of my eye for detail. And I think
Wow.
an eye for detail is very important. Being observant is very important, and being able to read a lot is very important. Creating narratives is very important, and
Being able to read a lot is a superpower that's very essential to most of the lit grads out there. When you compare yourself with the engineer ki janta, when what do you call
uh,
all the people from economics, they have a very this behavior. Though we can't read all of that. We are only restricting ourselves to functions. That is the
uh,
superpower you guys have.
that we read everything, fiction, non-fiction, and I
Exactly.
think that's why I got a 99.2 percentile in my VARC.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We'll build upon that as well. And about your CAT examination, how did you tackle with the QA and the DLR section? How
Okay,
did
so
you go about it?
my QA and my DILR section weren't my best. It was my VARC that single-handedly uplifted my score to a 95.4 percentile. So I think what I had to do is I learned somewhere to create those flashcards for formulae, and I used those flashcards and I kept practicing. There were times when I would when I would see my mock scores, and I would start weeping, and I thought, no, no, this is not happening. But then again, considering that I was better than about a large part of people in quants and DILR, I realized it's not all that bad. I may be, I may be difficult. It may be difficult for me to comprehend all this, but it's not all that bad.
Wow.
You can manage it if you try hard enough, or you can manage it when you have maybe a bigger pool of people to compete with.
Wow. The bigger pool of people you get to compete with, that improves your chances of converting. That's what you're telling.
It depends again. It depends. For example, if you're maybe sometimes you get lucky. I think I got lucky as far as QA and DILR are
That's
concerned.
what most of the hardworking people say, that we got lucky.
No, I seriously think I got lucky because when I looked at the score, when I looked at the mark sheet, when I looked at the response sheet, I was like, shit, we're gone. No, I don't think I'm getting anywhere above 80. I had told everyone that let's expect an 85 at best, but then things took their own turn.
VARC worked off. And with regard to your strategies with VARC, is there anything special that you do being a this thing liberal arts student?
If there's anything special that I do, I think just read the question first. No, I don't even remember. It's been almost 2 years now.
Yep, yep.
But have a skim read of maybe the passage first. See the question, and look at the keywords. And I think it's very important that you eliminate your options first, because when you eliminate, it's easier to choose out of the options that you have at hand later on.
So basically, the process of elimination comes really handy with regard to VARC.
Of course it does. Of course it
And having
does.
that knack of sort of skimming through whatever the passages and then finding out those loopholes. That yes, this is a
Yeah,
specific misleading one.
yeah. And I'm a fast reader because I spent an entire
And your
childhood
entire
reading.
life. Wow.
Yeah, I've spent an entire childhood reading, so I think it was very easy for me.
Probably the engineer should already give up on their what do you call aspirations of bettering their VARC score. They're competing with people who've been doing this their entire lives.
No, but then
That's
they had the edge in QA and DILR. No, I did not.
exactly. So yeah, CAT examination is a pretty level playing field at the end of the day, giving you the
It
edge
is.
in
It is.
VARC section. I get it.
Yeah.
And talking of your this thing interview experience at the colleges that you were shortlisted at, can you
Yeah.
run me through whatever they were asking you at the interviews, and was it an intimidating experience being a liberal arts student?
Not really, because I had a narrative. In fact, I had a template ready that this is how I'm going to start, and it was, my name is Ananya Mishra. I am 21 years old. Back then, I was 21. I
Yep.
will be 23 this year. Um, I'm 21 years old. I currently live in Mumbai. I have completed my undergraduate studies from NMIMS in literature. I also hold intermediate level certification in French from Alliance Française de Bombay. And then I did a little bit of mention about my dissertation. So I've completed two dissertation papers, one on the Maithili language movement and on brand storytelling through books. And then my interests include Bharatanatyam dance, violin, reading and writing prose and poetry. So that had a lot of material
Categories.
that they could pick on from. So
Wow.
that kind of led the conversation in my direction. So for example, the CAP interviews based on which I got about
Filter
11
about.
to 12 IIMs. Yes, I got 11 to 12 IIMs, and I selected Trichy. I did not get waitlisted because this was one of the IIMs I did not get waitlisted in, and this, then Jammu, then I think if I remember correctly, I was not
Sirmaur, Sambalpur.
Sirmaur. Yeah, Sirmaur. I think I got waitlisted in some of the IIMs, in some of the new generation IIMs, but in Trichy I got like a direct selection. So this was the template I had used. Then they asked me something about introducing myself in French. So I introduced myself in French. They asked me things about partition literature because I had mentioned that these were the subjects I studied in literature. And then they asked me about the Natya Shastra. They asked me a little bit here and there about a few current affairs I can name. So it was a pretty quick interview, and so that's how the CAP interviews went. They went pretty smooth. I had also appeared for Rohtak, and Rohtak to लड़कियों के लिए it's very easy.
Diversity. क्या आपका जेंडर फीमेल है? चलो सिलेक्शन हो गया, चलिए.
हाँ मेरी सिलेक्शन हो गई. So
So,
that interview got cut short in the middle because वो admissions वालों को कोई चाय serve करने लग गया, so they got interrupted. Otherwise, they kept me ambling on about this only about, and then there was an extempore which I was expected to talk about for 1 minute. तो मुझे प्रेपरेशन थी, एंड मैं ऐसे में मैं दोनों साइड से देखती हूँ. सो आई थिंक इट वाज अबाउट डेवलपिंग रिलीजियस स्पॉट्स एज टूरिज्म एरियाज. सो वन पॉइंट वाज जैसे कि टेम्पल्स क्रिएट इकोनॉमीज अराउंड देम. आप अगर फॉर एग्जांपल आप चेन्नई में भी देखोगे द टेम्पल ऑफ माइलापुर, कपालीश्वर टेम्पल जो है, उसके बाहर यू विल फाइंड दीज पूजा आइटम्स एंड फ्लावर सेलर्स एंड एवरीबडी. इवन आउटसाइड सिद्धि विनायक यू विल फाइंड दीज flower sellers and prasad people and everybody. So temples create economy around them, and when tourists come, they offer these they buy items. For example, even in places like Ujjain, there are these chai shops that tourists go to, or these kesar milk shops that they try out for the specialty purpose. या बनारस जाके जब बनारसी साड़ी लेते हैं. So that creates economy. When you develop these religious cities, they create economy. But then people may not like it. For the local janta, it can get a little overwhelming, especially because when people go and make reels over there, or when people create a lot of ruckus over there, everything has a flip side to it. So I discussed that.
wow.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty comprehensive picture with regard to your extempore. But so a
Yeah.
lot of CAP interviews have extempore, is it?
No, only Rohtak had an
Rohtak.
extempore. Yep.
Yeah.
And Nagpur ka, I'm sorry.
You were saying about Nagpur?
Haan, so Nagpur was again the same template. I was asked
Creating a
questions on the
narrative,
vaccine.
categorizing entire life out
Yeah,
there.
yeah. Like giving them a bio data. So that bio data was what worked over there. And I think that bio data is a foolproof method as far as just
Interviews are concerned.
interviews are concerned. Yeah.
You know, this is a very intelligent way of approaching interviews. I mean, give all the data of your life in a very specific manner to the other person that they get so intrigued by it that they only limit themselves to that. And within that
Yeah.
span of time, the entire interview's duration is
Yeah.
scrapped. That's a
Yeah.
pretty
So
intelligent way of looking at things. Yeah, you were saying.
so these were I think two of them. Then NMIMS and Nagpur. Nagpur, I ended up cutting short the interviewer, which I think was a little wrong on me because I almost understood that this is what they're talking about. The interview felt very intuitive, so I responded before they even finished the question. So I think that did not reflect on me very well. So I got
Oh.
waitlisted there, and NMIMS, there was this guy who was a little friendlier, and there was one who was just straight up cross, no welcoming body language, and just she was like, how do you think you're even going to survive in an MBA when you don't know anything about maths, when you don't have any work ex? Why are you coming here as a fresher? I'm like, I was dead in the face over there, so I got waitlisted in NMIMS as well. Um, then Tap Me went very well. Tap Me had a GD. The GD went well because again I used both sides of the topic. So I discussed this side as well as that side, and then I also and then my interview again, the template worked in my favor. After a point, I was just so done with interviews. I just could not bring myself to do any more interviews. So by the 10th of May, I received a call from Trichy, and I received a call from few other IIMs, and I think by then I was like, okay,
I'm done.
Yeah, I'm done. This has been very successful. Thank you very much.
Acha, were you a little impatient with the choice of your college as well? I mean,
I
you told me that you were waitlisted at a few places. What about that?
I was
You know, this is a very unique way of telling somebody that I got this college as the first college that I landed a seat at. I went with it. That's not
yeah,
how usually people decide, right?
yeah. So I got maybe I got uh, like for example when I got this one Trichy, I was like this is it. First I got Rohtak, then I got IMT Ghaziabad ka DCP program, the dual country program, and then I thought you know what, Trichy sounds the best out of these, and I know a little bit of Tamil. I can speak a little bit of Tamil,
You even know
so
Tamil? Whoa!
my skill just got sharpened over there. This is
Whoa!
what happens when you're an AR Rahman fan, you know.
OMG! OMG! I'm talking to a proper cinephile right now. So you were
So,
saying about the fact that, so how did you
yeah.
get to shortlist that, okay, I'm Trichy is the place where I need to be?
Hmm.
You were mentioning that this sounds good. This sounds good on what parameters though?
It sounded good because number one, I think the location was very good. The location seemed very decent to me compared to Rohtak and all.
Yeah, yeah,
Rohtak being in
yeah.
NCR, yeah.
Absolutely.
And then it's not that hard to roam around in Trichy. I have heard that it's very difficult to get basic necessities in places like Kashipur. So I was sure that maybe this is it. Plus, they have a very good finance curriculum, and there's a lot of tourist sort of movement
Attractions.
around. Yeah, there's a lot of tourist attractions there. So I think I was like,
These are
this is
some
it, and I
factors.
like the campus. The campus is very beautiful.
Yeah.
It's full of greenery. There's a beautiful lake attached to the campus,
Yeah.
and the library is 3 floors big with a
Correct.
ground floor and a basement. So I was like, this is extensive. There's a lot I can pick up from here and go with
Get
the
to
flow
voraciously read.
to voraciously read. And I think the place overall gave me a good vibe, so I went with it. And since then, I
Since then, it's
didn't.
been a wild ride.
Yeah, yeah, it's been a wild ride. Of course, it's been a wild ride. One thing I've realized is that seek experiences, um, and you can, because at the end of it, it's experiences that you know
Matter of life.
matter. Yeah, it's experiences that matter how you go forward in reality. And considering B school is actually a simulation of reality, just go with the flow. Maybe focus on learning than on studying, because when you study, it'll seem like a liability, but when you learn,
Learn.
it'll seem easier.
Wow.
So for
There's
the
a streamlined
subjects,
difference between learning and studying.
yes, there's a streamlined difference between learning and studying. So just absorb like a sponge, absorb everything like a sponge. Um, and I think being someone younger, I think one thing I've realized is do not take anything personally. Yeah, I think that's really, really something that's worked in my favor.
That's
That do
foolish of
not,
somebody when they take things personally.
yeah, that it's not foolish. It's something that you naturally do, but don't do it. I mean, there's no point in doing it, in taking things personally, because it's not about you. It's about how the other person sees you.
Wow. It'll take a lot of maturity on my part to come at that juncture where I can come up with that perspective.
Yeah.
Also, to all the people who are watching this podcast, there are different parameters where people judge their colleges on, be it placements, be it internships, be it the faculty. But here comes a very different perspective. Vibe match हो रही थी तो मैं वहां चली गई. कैंपस नहीं लग रहा, कैंपस चाहिए भाई मुझे. मुझे और किसी चीज से मतलब नहीं. That's a very unique way of looking at things. अरे यहाँ पे नेसेसिटीज मिल जाएंगे मुझे, बाकी कैंपसेस में नहीं मिल रहे. That's a nice. That's a nice way.
I
That's.
mean, हाँ, मुझे लर्निंग से ही मतलब था, मुझे
Mhm.
हमेशा से लर्निंग से ही मतलब था, क्योंकि you know, in Ori's words, I learn, so I'm a learner.
Oh, come on! No, no reference from Ori, please. I'm dying. I can't see that man anymore. Please.
And don't include this part, नहीं तो
No. Of course I will. Of course I will. So, Ananyaa, building upon your experience at your this thing college, I am Tiruchirappalli. So, you enter the gates, you like the campus, you like the library, everything is falling into place. But when
हाँ.
you open the doors of your classroom, you get introduced to the world of calculus, statistics, mathematics, and that
Hmm.
interview from NMIMS comes out in your memory. That again, you're struggling with your MBA. How did you manage that struggle?
It's very important to make YouTube your best friend. So yeah,
So
because
basically,
I
YouTube
think,
all the way.
huh, I am not a very classroom friendly learner. I am a very self-paced learner. So here is where I just abandoned learning in the classroom, especially subjects like stats. I was like, you know what? ये खुद देख लेंगे, ये खुद देख लेंगे. हाँ. So I turned to YouTube and YouTube पर फालतू के शॉर्ट्स, YouTube शॉर्ट्स देखने से अच्छा,
और
you
ही
know,
के शॉट्स कॉल दम
हाँ,
फॉर या
और वो पिंक विला के रील्स देखने से अच्छा,
या
हाँ, वो अननेसेसरी सी फेक न्यूज़ देखने से अच्छा कभी मतलब स्टैट्स ही देख लो.
वाओ
सो आई मेड यूट्यूब माई बेस्ट फ्रेंड. फिर उसी पे मैंने मोस्ट जैसे मैनेजमेंट अकाउंटिंग हो गया, ऑपरेशंस हो गया, वो मैंने यूट्यूब से ही पढ़ लिया. सो इट बिकेम वेरी इजी फॉर मी टू अंडरस्टैंड द सब्जेक्ट.
approaching it with a very calm mindset helps as well. You seem to be a
हाँ,
very calm person and that really worked off, right?
आई
Not being
थिंक
insecure.
आई थिंक दिस प्लेस हैज मेड मी वेरी काम. इट्स लाइक होने दो जो होता है.
हो गए हम कहाँ the song.
हाँ, हाँ. I was going to watch that movie today, but then I got so bored. Then I was like, nah.
No, it's a good movie. It's a good film. It's not a very great film, but it's a good film. Coming from a cinephile myself, I happen to be what do you call having a thing for films. But yeah, so you mentioned that most of your courses were this thing very much available across YouTube, etc. But what
Huh.
about the part where you were enjoying the classroom learning? Were there any subjects that you really felt like, oh, this is something that I'm here for?
Yeah. For example, strategy inspired me a lot. The marketing classes were really engaging, and then there was a class called micro organizational behavior that I really enjoyed. I think it also depends on how much the professor is invested into the course and how engaging they are, how stimulating they are as a person.
And how it
And
aligns with your interests as well.
not just that, but for example, organizational behavior was not something I had really come. I was not ready for
Across.
it. Yeah, I was not ready for it. But then, when I like my professor Papri Nath. Her name is Papri Nath. Her attitude is very chirpy. She has a very positive vibe that she brings to the class. So that really influenced how invested I was into the subject. She makes for a very inclusive professor. Um, and then, for example, strategy. The professor needs to know what they're talking about inside out, and they have to be passionate about it. As I said, they have to be a passionate storyteller. They have to work on the show, not tell. They cannot just talk about something and then leave it there,
They
because
have to
what
evoke
about,
emotions from the person.
yeah, because students out here are seeking novelty. I for a fact know that I'm someone who seeks novelty.
That
So
might not
that,
be true with the engineering guys out there though.
yeah.
So yeah, you were saying that most of the
Uh,
professors who are storytellers really came in handy and were fascinating enough with the course.
yeah, that has to be important. They have to be storytellers, and they have to maybe treat the class as an environment of, somewhere you can absorb things like a sponge.
Yeah. And about your strategy class very specifically though, is there something specific with regard to the curriculum that really enamored and fascinated you? Something
uh,
specific with the curriculum?
Versatility.
Versatility.
Hmm.
Spread
that
across
that
multiple domains.
Yes, of course, and that versatility is what I made use of in my
Summer
in
internship.
in my summer internship. There you got me. My project was to create end-to-end event planning solutions for business events at Reliance Industries. And over there, I made use of a lot of relevant strategy frameworks that helped me create a project that was really received um,
With both
well
hands open.
across. Yeah, across the brand management team, they loved the project. So the strategy frameworks really came handy over there. Strategy frameworks and some concepts from psychology, Bain and Co.'s elements of value.
Wow.
These things are relevant to you, but then you need to know when and where. And
And
I
only
think
the
that's
forte
something,
is related to that. Yep, yep.
and that's something you learn at the SIP. That's not something you can learn in the classroom as such. The classroom can only initiate you into these things, but then that's something you have to go on the field and learn.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. And
Try
and
and test, try and refuse.
and also about the fact that IIMs happen to be the mecca of management when I talk of management institutions in the country. But do you
Yeah,
think, are they really worth the kind of money that we're pumping into those colleges? Are the
of course they
professors
are.
really making the mark? Yeah.
Of course they are. Of course they are. And it's not just about the professors, but it's also about the kind of experience or the kind of value that you're deriving from the place, the kind of person it is creating you. I think living away from home, I've always, finished my studies at home. I've always lived under the roof of my parents, and then going away and living away from home. It was an it was a new challenge for me altogether. Living in a hostel and then managing your studies and managing basic things like cleaning bed sheets and things like that. That teaches you how to live on your own for a fact. Then, as I said, it's a place where you come to terms with reality. And
Expose yourself to myriad of things.
yeah, it's where you come to terms with reality because you experience all sorts of people. In a liberal arts degree, there are people who are your age
Hmm.
with similar interests as you, or at least um, you know coming from similar backgrounds, and they're taught the same things. You know they have similar ambitions for
With similar
themselves.
experiences as well.
Yeah, and they have similar experiences. But your classmate can be as old as 30,
Wow.
and they can be as young as
20.
21.
Yeah.
Yeah, so and they can maybe have 5 years of work ex, and there can be someone who's
A fresh.
literally just matlab, they do not even have a gap year. Your classmate cannot even have a gap year. So that's the kind of variety that is there. So you come to terms with all sorts of people. You learn to deal with all sorts of people, especially those that you feel like are intimidating, or those that feel like competition to you. You learn to be less insecure, or maybe learn to tackle your insecurities in such a way that they don't rub in the face of someone else, or that they don't hurt someone else.
So
And
precisely, you become far more emotionally intelligent.
yeah, you become emotionally intelligent, and then
And
you
more than,
realize
yep. And then
and
you
then
realize.
you realize that there are more than just academics that are supposed to shape you up, that there is more to life than just academics.
Again, the learning is
And
greater than studying comes into the picture.
yeah, the learning is greater than studying. So just I think you just learn to live life one day at a time, and to live life with all the obstacles that come in between. You
This is
learn to.
this is going on to become a full-blown philosophical
It is.
podcast.
It is. I feel very embarrassed about how your subscribers are going to go
What are we even
berserk
discussing?
at how philosophical and dramatic I can get.
But it's pretty calming as well. Most of the people will have a different kind of this thing appreciation towards the content that we are generating right now.
As now, they'll be like, "What sort of yappery is this?"
OMG, OMG. And about the fact that you kept mentioning, you kept obsessing with the fact that more than the academic curriculums, more than the placements, it's all about an experience
It's
that you're
about the
managing to
experience.
study at
Yeah.
time.
Hmm.
What about the ROI part though? You're investing 2.5 million rupees, close to 2.5 if I'm not wrong, or 2
Yeah,
million.
yeah, yeah.
So, so do you think, again, coming back to that question, when I compare all the factors involved, do you think there is a slight misbalance? Do you think the fees needs to be reduced?
I again, the fees gets reduced for people who need it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think I don't know whether I should be commenting on this. I feel like this is something that's put me in the spot.
Wow.
Just remove this part. It'll
Sure.
make the entire
Sure,
thing
sure,
look
sure.
good.
We'll trim this question out.
Uh,
So, Ananya, building upon the fact that you landed your summer internship at Reliance. So, the first few months when you are new at your management college, you're going through all sorts of shortlists and you're being worried about the fact that why am I not getting shortlisted? Can you run
hmm.
me through that journey as well?
So getting shortlists even in retail was a little bit of a task for me because I'm not very academically sound. I am an average student at best. So even with all the resume pointers and the French and the dissertations and a UI UX internship in retail, I felt like somewhere I was lacking and I don't know where. I could not point out where. Someone was like, it's not about the acads because there are people with, worse acads who are
Steps.
getting shortlists still.
Oh.
So I was really confused. But then again, the job market was such that you cannot figure out what happened and why it
Why are
happened.
we at the suffering end of it?
Yeah, that why me? It was something I could not figure out, and I think that was probably a lot to do with the fact that the job market was not doing its best, and the fact that I was a COVID grad, so that really creates a poor impression of me, I guess.
But then your scores, given the fact that you're a code grad, your scores also be very high, right? There is an added
Uh,
advantage.
yeah, my CGPA was 3.08 out of 4,
Mhm.
so that was a good thing.
Apart from that, so building upon the fact that you were trying to get shortlisted, most of the this thing companies. So were there any companies that were having their doors shut for a liberal arts student?
Yeah, yep. So again, for example, finance roles were there was a certain criteria that you had to satisfy for finance roles or for IT roles or operations roles, and I think that really closed doors for me because compared to a sea full of BCom and BSc and engineering grads, I feel like even eco grads have it easier because eco is somewhat related to business.
Yeah.
So I think that's where I really got stuck. But then now I think it's
The
getting
second
Reliance
time you
and then
got stuck after this
yeah,
thing, after UG at NMIMS, the second time you got stuck.
yeah. And I was like, you know what, I should have got on some work X and probably then come here. And that's when I realized, oh shit, that NMIMS interview was actually so true. Everything, including the part about not knowing anything about stats, not knowing anything about finance, is suffocating me over here. Not knowing, not having work X is making my life difficult. And I have to be honest, even though I am this cheery, this positive, my life in the first year has been very, very difficult. From not getting shortlists to getting my marks impeded just because of these subjects, just because of subjects that I am not very familiar with.
But despite that, you still have a lot of philosophy to share
Yeah,
with all the people.
yeah, I feel like it's made me it's
Made
added
you
a lot
made
of
you a
value to
very
my life.
interesting, emotional, intelligent person as well.
Yeah, it's made me a very emotionally intelligent person, and it's made me realize that your marks are not something that define your talent.
Mm.
It's how logical you can become, and it's a lot about how enterprising you can get. So I think being enterprising is very important. You know,
Good luck convincing a wannabe consultant with that explanation. You
yeah,
know the
take risks, but make sure that the risks that you take are worth it. Yeah,
Mhm. Chase
that
your own impossible.
yeah. I am not someone who's very good at taking risks, so I don't think I should be giving this advice. But take the kind of risks that are, that
Meaningful
make
to you.
sense to you. Yeah, that make sense to you. That are meaningful to you.
And about the kind of companies that land up with regard to your summer internship. So,
Yeah.
what is IIM Trichirappalli known for?
It's more popular for finance.
It's more popular for finance. So, finance,
Yeah.
what do you call, absorbs 40% of the batch?
Um, Maybe not.
Maybe less, maybe more. And what is the batch size
Yeah.
like? 300 kids,
400 to 450. So that
450.
includes, yeah. So I'm
That
also
includes.
counting in the HR students.
Mm-hmm. So,
So
there are
for
a
now,
couple of courses PGP, PGP, HR.
yeah. So PGP and PGP HR, they kind of, have similar course structures compared to someone who's an executive student or a DPM student.
There are 450 students, and HRM must be 100 students or 150 students?
50 to 53.
50 to 53. So 400 kids, and most of them, what do you call, have this inclination, have this proclivity of getting placed in finance. A majority of the batch.
Um, yeah, the chances are high of getting placed in finance, but then people also get into IT and operations, and there's a lot of variety. Of course, there's a lot of variety.
So after finance, what is the most sought after domain at Tiruchirappalli?
Um, FMCG,
FMCG marketing.
easily.
Oh. Or how about we discuss the fact that you went about landing a this thing internship off campus, and how did you go about it then? How about that?
So I wrote referrals. I wrote referrals here, there, everywhere. I wrote on Instagram. I sent mails. Anything and everything. And since I think the templates divulged enough. I'm a very musically inclined, artistically inclined person with a flair for literature. So I wrote to HarperCollins and I wrote to Penguin and uh, I wrote to all these organizations, Kunzum. Have you heard of Kunzum?
No, nope, I haven't.
How come you live in Delhi and you've not heard of Kunzum?
I've never heard of it. What is it?
It's a bookstore with this
Is it
cafe.
in Khan Market?
I think so.
Acha, maybe then I've heard of it. Maybe then I've heard of
Yeah.
it.
And then I wrote to Crossword, and I was like, and I handle sponsorships for the literature club. So I was like, you know what? इनसे बैठे बैठे अब यहाँ पर भी internship मांग ही लेते हैं.
Yup.
And
And
then I
then?
wrote Sare Gama and Geo Savan and everybody, like anybody and everybody I could lay my eyes on. I just sent them a mail that this is me, this is my resume. अब बाकी तुम्हारी मर्जी. Then finally referral के basis पे I got Reliance Petrochemicals,
Wow.
which is their B2B manufacturing business, and they do fibers and fabrics made out of plastic bottles. That's one part of them. Then they do railwood, um, which is a simulation of wood without harming forests and without affecting wood of any sort.
Wow.
So it's like a replica that does not cause harm to the environment. So that's one part that they
Great part.
manufacture.
Yep.
Yeah, so there were different business units, and I had to create an event plan for representing these business units at the different events that happen, exhibitions, for example, or trade show, like exhibitions and trade shows. Then they have a flagship fashion show called the Circular Design Challenge.
And you were supposed to have a unified brand imagery as well.
Yeah, like you could, like I had to create a set of instructions that were mandatory for the
Event planner.
events. Yeah, for the event plan for
Wow.
for the different events.
So this is a specific internship where all of whatever you had learned confluenced
Hmm.
together. Be it
Yeah,
psychology, be it your internship. Yeah, you were saying, yeah.
yeah, it did. Of course, it did.
Pretty,
So I
pretty fun.
had, yeah. So that was where I was like, you know what? भले ही मतलब भले ही ये प्रोफेसर्स को लगे क्लास में मैं सोई होंगी या कुछ भी, बट आई लर्नड वट एवर दे टॉक्ड अबाउट, and I put it through the kind of rational perspectives
Wow.
that they required to be in, that they belonged to. So I made it very clear. So मतलब ऐसा था कि एकेडमिक रिक्वायरमेंट है ना, तो एकेडमिक रिक्वायरमेंट की तरह ही ट्रीट किया है कि सारी जो भी सीखा है 1 साल में वो सब सही से लगाया हुआ है.
Practical hands-on approach. That's something that not a lot
हाँ
of students have their hands on.
हाँ.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's what I was talking about ना, that you have to have that hands-on approach.
Learning over studying. And this idea of cold calling, cold emailing everybody under the sun out there, this really came in handy. You are one of those few people where everything is coming handy. You know, even you landing an internship.
See, I don't think it's all about, you have to be lucky. You have to be very, very lucky.
Especially in this market.
Yeah, especially in the job market, especially as a fresher, you have to be very lucky. And I think somewhere I was like, what? अब छोड़ देते हैं, संन्यास ले लेते हैं, ये मुझसे नहीं होगा अब. और मैं I was you know very fed up by all this, so I was like संन्यास ले लेते हैं.
Let's give
But
in to
then my
nihilism.
hmm?
Let's give in to nihilism.
Yeah, let's do something else. I am already my professional, my dance is picking up very professionally. वहाँ पर I'm like a proper जब भी कुछ प्रोग्राम होता है, alumni meet है, गणेश वंदना के लिए बुला लो, कुछ रिपब्लिक डे इसको बुला लो डांस के लिए, परफॉर्म करने के लिए. So I was like, this is picking up. I have used the opportunities that I made use of in college. हाँ, अब मैं यूट्यूब चैनल स्टार्ट कर लेती हूँ, मैं भी डांस स्टार्ट कर देती हूँ. सो आई वाज लाइक व्हाट, लेट्स डू दिस, क्योंकि अब इंटर्नशिप मिलने से तो रही. एंड देन आई वाज लाइक ना.
And then luck came handy.
Hmm?
Then luck
And
came
then हाँ,
handy.
then luck came handy. Then I was like, रेफरल से काम चलाते हैं थोड़ा.
Acha, with regard to your this thing, chances of converting your SIP into PPO, are there any chances?
There are chances. ऑफ कैंपस
Fingers
तो
crossed.
पीपीओ वाले, हाँ, ऑफ कैंपस में पीपीओ वाली बातें तो होती नहीं है.
बिल्कुल नहीं होती हैं, exactly.
हाँ, बट रेफरल, उधर भी रेफरल एंड रिकमेंडेशंस ही काम आती हैं.
It's really sort of disparaging that your entire life is centered around referrals, you know? Your
हाँ,
entire life, referrals,
like
connections, doors.
my professional life is, of course.
Yeah, to be a little more precise, professional life. And
Yeah.
building upon that, your placements at IIM Tiruchirappalli, again the same, this thing, what do you call, segregation. First you have finance, then you have FMCG.
Yeah, and it's like पहले वो 90s वाले निकलेंगे, फिर 80s वाले निकलेंगे, फिर बाद में मतलब एकदम ऐसे. मैं
90s वाले as in
जिनकी
CGPA?
एकेडमिक रिकॉर्ड ज्यादा अच्छे हैं.
999. अच्छा
हाँ,
अच्छा अच्छा.
999,
ऐसे
10
तो
10
फिर मैं
10.
लास्ट में ही निकलता.
हाँ, मैं तो एवरेज हूँ ना, तो आई टुक माई स्वीट टाइम. आई वाज लाइक, बट मुझसे बीइंग अनप्लेस्ड वाज आल्सो समथिंग आई कुड नॉट टॉलरेट.
Wow. Not wow, I mean.
हाँ.
Gee, so about the
But
place,
हाँ, there's
yeah,
a
you
there's
say.
a fine mix. There's a fine mix. You'll find consulting भी बराबर के ही आते हैं. So there's a fine mix of placements at IIM Tiruchirappalli. बस यही है कि फाइनेंस के लिए बहुत पॉपुलर है, क्योंकि हमारी फाइनेंस की फैकल्टी भी बहुत पॉपुलर है.
Both accomplished.
बहुत क्वालिफाइड है.
With regard to FMCG, can you name a few brands that come out of the campus as well?
हाँ, for example, there was TCPL, there was Wipro, and then Berger, and there were a lot of these sales and marketing roles. Then JP Morgan I,
Oh.
and
Most
Tata
of the
AIG was there.
consulting में कौन सी है?
Consulting में there was McKinsey for a fact. Then there was Bain and Co.
So yeah, Ananyaa, you were talking about the fact that your MBA, this thing is a function of all the experiences that you put through. Is there any provision of having an international immersion experience? Is there an international exchange program with
There
Trichy?
is an international exchange program which I unfortunately didn't apply for.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what are the factors that come into play? The kind of scores that you're getting at the campus, etc., or something else comes into play?
Earlier the CGPA used to matter, but then it became more open, and now you have to send an SOP, and
Literally anybody is eligible for the entire this thing.
now anybody can go. as long as they have a strong profile and they have a strong reason to go.
Oh, strong reason to go.
Yeah, like
Oh,
if you're you know enthusiastic about it, that's what I'm saying. That's a strong reason.
oh, oh. That's a strong reason from a personal point of view, not from the institution's point of view, right?
Yeah, from the personal point of view, when you're enthusiastic about it, or when
And
you're capable enough, and when you're capable enough.
capable enough is where the picture comes into play. And about the fact that both placements and international exchange program, are there any factors that play spoil sport with regard to your academic life, with regard to other decisions that you've taken already?
What do you mean?
As in, for example, if I talk about consulting, your academic scores might play spoil sport. This is
It
one factor
does.
that might definitely play spoil sport. When I
It
talk of the
does.
placements overall, what are the other factors that might play spoil sport?
What other factors might play spoil sport besides academics, right?
Yep, yep, yep.
Yeah. So I really am not sure because it depends from person to person. Someone might be just not able to speak in
Stand for their
interviews.
interviews.
Yeah, somebody must not be clear enough. Their clarity of thought might be an issue, or just they don't know what to say in the interview, and they might be getting a lot of shortlists. It depends. Again, it depends from case to case. And then there's someone who's very eloquent, but then they're not getting shortlists. And
That's another misery.
yeah, so that's another problem. That had they gotten a shortlist, they would have made it through. They would have just powered through it. So there are people like that. And then there are people, maybe I think not keeping it real does affect a lot of your interview
Candidature.
process. Yeah,
Makes sense, makes sense.
yeah,
And apart from that, summing up your experience at IIM Trichybitw, you have a year at your hand and you have an understanding of how everything functions over there. Is
yeah.
there any club or committee that's really sought after?
Mm, the placement committee, of course, is sought after.
The
फिर
PC that dissuades people from spreading information out there?
no, I don't know. I am not sure what's confidential, what's not confidential. So I might end up telling you things that were not supposed to be told.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, any specific club with regard to finance club must be sought after?
Finance club is sought after. Then the performing arts club, the creative talent club, rather, is sought after because it's fun.
It's fun
It's
to be
fun to
there.
be in. The cultural committee is sought after because again, it's fun to be in.
Most of the
Then
this thing, yep, yep, yep.
yeah, then the academic committee because attendance के पीछे किसी का मतलब वो पावर रहती है ना कि
Makes
अटेंडेंस की
sense.
लड़ाई लड़ लेंगे.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Things that you get to have the control of the batch over. PC,
Hmm.
academic committee, cultural committee for the fun part.
Hmm.
That's a pretty cool way to put it across.
Hmm.
So Ananya, if I had to talk about the very essential aspect of your journey till date, the fact that you transitioned from a literature student, not a literature, a liberal arts student, to somebody who's pursuing a hardcore MBA, becoming as professional, as employable in the job market out there. So, is there any advice you'd like to give to people out there? First, the liberal
Um,
arts people.
for the liberal arts people, I think one advice is don't go unprepared like me. Don't make my mistake of going unprepared. कि सब तो वहीं सीख लेंगे. Come handy with a little bit of things. Just have something that पहले से, so that you're not lost over there. And make you know I'm not a very group study friendly person, so if you can study on your own, study on your own, but if you can learn from someone who can teach you, then learn with them.
So it's
And
basically come prepared already with a lot of course and also be open to what you call learning in whatever way you can.
हाँ हाँ फॉर एग्जाम्पल IIT मद्रास डज ऑफर दीज जो भी MBA में पढ़ाए जाते हैं फर्स्ट ईयर
Refresh
वाले सारे
courses.
कोर्सेज. हाँ, यू कैन फाइंड देम ऑनलाइन. समटाइम्स दे आर फ्री ऑफ कॉस्ट एंड एज आई सेड जस्ट मेक यूट्यूब योर बेस्ट. मैंने
NPT,
मैंने स्टार्ट
YouTube.
हाँ NPTL, YouTube, हाँ, क्योंकि मैंने स्टैट्स यूट्यूब से ही पास किया है।
So during the course of the entire podcast, Ananya kept mentioning about the fact that you need to befriend with YouTube. You need to make YouTube your best friend.
हाँ.
And I hope over the coming days, this podcast also allows other people to derive that help from YouTube. And
My
hopefully we
favorite
could.
advice is YouTube से पढ़ ले. When
Wow.
something's not working, YouTube से पढ़ ले.
Makes sense. For a few people, it does work out.
हाँ.
And MBA is also one what do you call course where reading from books is not really intelligent. You know, most of whatever you read on the internet comes handy. A quick read
हाँ.
through. So yeah, with that, Ananya, we call it a day. We'll wrap it up. It was one amazing and one very philosophical discussion that we had on your experience at Tiruchirappalli.
Academics पे मत depend करो. Just
Learning पर depend.
हाँ, learning पर depend करो. क्योंकि academics नहीं reflect करता है कि तुम कैसे हो. For example, someone with 100% marks might not know what to say in public. And people have
Rather
foot
than
in,
somebody with the 60% know that.
हाँ, people have foot and mouth moments even when they're A plus students. And people can have, you know, very good speaking skills when they're like 50% students. So do not let your marks define you, and let what you learn define you. Let what you go through define you.
Let your experiences define you. Let your
Let your
subjective version of
experience
reality
define.
define you.
Yes, let your reality define you. Let who you are define you. For example, I'm a very creative person, and I don't. And मैंने बोला ना, I'm not a very good classroom learner. तो मैं YouTube से पढ़ने वाला ही बच्चा हूँ. So that is how I learn. मैं कभी कभी क्लासरूम में मुझे समझ में भी नहीं आता क्या कर रही हूँ. बस वो बात अलग है कि समटाइम्स सीपी के मार्क्स मिल जाते हैं, या यू नो प्रोफेसर को बात अच्छी लग जाती है तो प्रोफेसर भी बोल देते हैं, अच्छे से अग्री कर लेते हैं. बट मुझे नहीं समझ में आता मैं क्लासरूम में कर क्या रही होती हूँ मोस्ट ऑफ द टाइम. सो मैं अपनी आई एम अ वेरी सेल्फ पेस्ड लर्नर. आई लर्न ऑन माई ओन टर्म्स एंड आई लर्न माई ओन वे. मैं शायद एग्जाम्स में आई एम नॉट अ वेरी एग्जाम सेंट्रिक लर्नर, बट आई एम अ वेरी प्रोजेक्ट सेंट्रिक एंड you know internship centric, extracurricular activity centric learner. वो mentorship से सीख लूँगी और fellowship से सीख लूँगी, case comps से सीख लूँगी. So that's me. And because MBA is a simulation of reality, हर तरह के लोग होते ही हैं. So someone who's maybe not scoring well but is learning through these ways, but उनकी बातों में वो जिस तरह से अपने आप को carry out करते हैं, intelligence झलकती है, you know. You realize that yeah, there are different ways of being, you know, there are different ways to define intelligence. Someone might be intelligent on paper,
Someone might be socially intelligent.
someone might be socially intelligent. Someone might be intelligent through the experiences that they go through. Someone might be intelligent through the versatility that they carry. I think I'm a versatile sort of intelligent कि मैं retail भी कर सकती हूँ, मैं B2B भी कर सकती हूँ. You know, I can do event planning as well. I can do, you know, proper वो दुकान में जाके तेल के orders डालना, साबुन के orders डालना, वो भी कर सकती हूँ. And arts management भी कर लेती हूँ थोड़ा बहुत. So I'm a versatile learner. मैं अपनी whatever projects I take on, I learn from that. मैं classroom में अपनी terms पर सीखती हूँ, मैं जो subjects अपने terms पर सीखती हूँ. But more than tests, I learn from this. So realize that, and I think treat everyone as equal, क्योंकि हर किसी का ये रियलिटी से कोप करने का तरीका अलग है. So किसी को do not demean someone because उनके मार्क्स कम आ रहे हैं, क्योंकि for all you know वो शायद इंटर्नशिप में बहुत बढ़िया कर रहे हैं, या वो इतने ज़्यादा प्रोफाइल उनकी इतनी डाइवर्स है कि उनको कल को कोई भी कंपनी उठा के ले जाएगी and they won't have to think twice. So just that's all I have to say.
Fortifying on your strengths.
And just play on your strengths, but not at the expense of others. माना ये relative grading वाली society है, but you don't have to be so competitive कि आप दूसरे का talent पर
उड़ा के आगे चल जाओ.
हाँ, कि आप दूसरे को डिमीन करके या दूसरे को डाउन प्ले करके कि तू जो बोलता है उसमें तो मतलब ही नहीं है, या तू जो बोलती है तू सिर्फ बोलने के लिए बोलती है, क्योंकि फॉर ऑल यू नो उसका बोलने के लिए बोलना इज मेकिंग हर सो exposed to things that you may not even imagine. So just treat everyone as equal. Mana, you know, people are not like you, people are not the same as you. So don't project your insecurities onto others. Keep them to yourself. In fact, work on them yourself. And just respect people because that's the best way you can learn from them.
So
हाँ,
basically,
ज़्यादा
find
वक्त
your
हो गई.
own. नहीं हुई. Finding your own subjective version of reality and becoming
Yeah,
emotionally intelligent and being very
हाँ,
moral.
yeah.
These are the three benchmarks of going about having a good career at large and even a life.
या एंड ट्रीटिंग योरसेल्फ एज इक्वल, क्योंकि कल को अगर एचआर बनोगे और अपने आप को इक्वल जैसे नहीं ट्रीट करोगे अपने आसपास, तो किस बात के एचआर बनोगे फिर.
Precisely that.
हम्म.
Precisely that. Treating yourself, everybody, being accommodative.
या
That
बी
is very important.
अकोमोडेटिव. हाँ.
So yeah, Ananya, with that we come to the end. It was a riveting podcast where I got to know about the philosophical tidbits about your experience at Trichy. And yeah, we call it a day. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this as well.